faithfully conveying value and interpreting great books worldwide.
Hello, this is Sally's Book Talk.
Today's book interpretation is The Death of Expertise, subtitled The Rise of Anti-Intellectualism and Its Impact. The author, Thomas Nichols, is a former professor of national security affairs at the U.S. Naval War College. He's also a former U.S. Senate assistant and expert in foreign policy and international security affairs.
Nichols argues anti-intellectualism in America is alarming, with shocking deficiencies in basic knowledge.
A 2014 National Science Foundation survey of 200 Americans found 1/4 believe the sun orbits Earth. Oh! Worse yet, Americans lack knowledge yet believe they know everything. When experts disagree with them, they dismiss it as expert error rather than self-reflect. Nichols notes Americans strangely equate equality of persons with equality of opinions.
Views from non-college netizens on military policy, however flawed, demand equal consideration.
Criticize their lack of expertise, and they cry elitism. It stifles. They see democratic dialogue as experts oppressing public interests, never questioning their own unreliability. This climate fills America with expert hostility, even hatred.
This death of expertise, trusting only oneself, deeply worries Nichols.
He warns societies disrespecting experts will use flawed knowledge to guide personal and national decisions, causing dire consequences. Hence, Nichols wrote The Death of Expertise, exploring its causes, effects, and how to view expert fallibility. The New York Times calls it a timely, valuable book offering frameworks for national governance. The Washington Post praised its wise insights on internet and social media's political roles. I'll now interpret the book's core content in 3 parts. First, the dangers of blindly rejecting experts. Second, what undermines trust in experts. Third, how should we perceive expert errors? First, let's discuss the dangers of blindly rejecting experts. The book identifies 2 main harms. The first is damage to personal lives. If someone persistently distrusts experts and clings to false beliefs, they may end up harming themselves. For example, some Americans are raw milk enthusiasts. Milk that's completely unprocessed, straight from the animal. Typically, dairies pasteurize raw milk to sterilize it and add some additives. That's the finished milk we buy. But raw milk enthusiasts believe unprocessed milk tastes richer and is healthier. Let's not debate taste. Preferences vary. But claims about raw milk being healthier are completely unfounded. A CDC report shows raw milk contains harmful bacteria causing liver damage and mastitis, with 150 times higher illness risk than pasteurized dairy. One food expert bluntly said, drinking raw milk is gambling with your life. Yet enthusiasts ignore warnings, consuming it themselves, and giving it to vulnerable children. The second harm of distrusting experts is disrupting public policy and even undermining democracy's foundations. The author notes, experts in public policy should provide specialized knowledge informing voters about potential outcomes and consequences of choices. Voters' responsibility is to fully understand these issues, decide their priorities, and make careful choices. Many public issues are complex and specialized, challenging ordinary voters without expertise. If they blindly distrust experts and refuse deep understanding or reflection, they may make poor decisions, as shown in the Brexit referendum example. Rationally, before deciding on EU departure, Britons needed to understand Brexit's implications and what staying would mean. Ordinary people lack expertise in such geopolitical matters. Many Britons were uninformed, even ignorant, about UK-EU relations pre-referendum. Yet, like Americans, they distrusted experts, some swayed by politicians to choose Brexit without considering consequences. Later, it was discovered that Brexit has many harmful impacts that would strike the UK economy. Not long after the referendum, many who voted for Brexit immediately regretted it and demanded a second vote. If the public doesn't understand an issue's substance, They might vote based on who they like rather than their actual needs. American comedian Jimmy Kimmel once pulled a prank. He asked people on the street whether they supported Hillary or Trump for president, then showed them the results of Hillary and Trump's tax plans showed that respondents preferred the plan of the candidate they supported. But Jimmy actually swapped them, labeling Hillary's plan as Trump's and Trump's as Hillary's. When people realized they supported their opponent's proposal, they were stunned. The author argues that if voters don't think carefully before choosing and lack clarity about their true desires, they essentially hand over decision-making power to officials and elites, undermining democracy's foundations. Because democracy should represent the people's true will and demands. Although elected officials hire expert advisors, they might cherry-pick expert opinions that serve their party's interests to sway public opinion. After the Brexit referendum, some pro-Brexit politicians admitted many of their claims were either exaggerated or false. All right, to summarize part one, blindly distrusting experts brings two harms: endangering personal lives and disrupting public policy decisions, thereby undermining democracy's foundations. Next, in part two, we'll explore what causes distrust in experts. The author identifies 4 reasons. The first involves 2 cognitive traps that make us trust ourselves over experts. The first is called the Dunning-Kruger effect. This means the less knowledgeable people are, the more they overestimate their abilities, and the harder it is to change their views. Psychologists found in studies that poorer performing students tend to believe they can score higher. A student scoring 80 might think they could get 85, while one scoring 70 believes they can get 90. This phenomenon is everywhere.
Some terrible singers don't realize how bad they are.
Some bosses who know nothing about design often micromanage designers' work, convinced their changes would look better. Oh, the reason? Highly skilled people better discern quality. They step outside their own perspective to objectively evaluate performance, identify flaws, and improve. But less skilled individuals who haven't deeply mastered skills often lack discernment ability and can't evaluate themselves objectively. When encountering expert opinions, they stubbornly cling to their views, convinced the expert must be wrong. The second cognitive trap is confirmation bias. This means if we hold a preconceived belief, we'll seek supporting information while ignoring opposing evidence. For example, if I believe flying is dangerous, every plane crash report reinforces that, yet I ignore how car accidents are far more common. Confirmation bias always provides rebuttals. When experts say smoking harms health, smokers point to 90-year-old smokers as proof it's harmless. The author argues confirmation bias stems from poor statistical understanding. Individual cases don't represent overall probabilities. Objective comparison is needed, not assuming personal experience reflects reality. Having covered cognitive traps, let's explore causes of expert distrust. The second reason, commodification of university education. The author believes universities should cultivate specialized knowledge, enabling students to shoulder social responsibilities. They should also foster critical thinking, teaching objective evaluation of viewpoints for rational decisions. But today's American universities resemble commercial service providers rather than educational institutions. On one hand, schools lower academic standards. On the other, they treat students as customers, catering to preferences rather than educating. First, lowered standards. A study of 200 U.S. colleges found A is the most frequently given grade. At Yale, over 60% of grades are A or A-. While plausible for individual courses, when most students university-wide get top marks, the grade inflation becomes obvious. The author believes universities lower standards primarily due to America's self-affirmation and self-actualization culture. Americans strongly emphasize protecting children's self-esteem. To them, grading isn't for assessing learning outcomes but boosting self-esteem.
Thus, failing students is unacceptable. It would damage their self-worth.
American society is saturated with this praise-only, no criticism educational atmosphere, as the book states. American kids are coddled into never considering their ignorance. They don't recognize flaws, just feel excellent, with no drive to improve. The author argues past university diplomas signified formal education meeting certain knowledge standards. Today's bachelor degrees just mean tuition was paid and classes attended, not educational attainment. To reach former undergraduate levels, students need at least a master's degree. Regarding catering to preferences, many American parents let children choose colleges themselves, with students shopping around like consumers. But teenagers often prioritize campus aesthetics, cafeteria food, superficial factors. With no parental guidance, some literally pick schools for nicer dorms. Thus, universities compete by pampering students to attract enrollment and tuition. To satisfy students, many universities implement professor rating systems. Students rate based on bizarre criteria: chair comfort, class timing, even professors' looks and clothing. The author notes these systems foster a mindset where students feel entitled to judge professors condescendingly despite lacking expertise. This reinforces their customer mentality while diminishing respect for specialized knowledge. Such attitudes persist into adulthood, shaping how they treat experts. Having covered the commodification of university education, next, we'll discuss causes of expert distrust. The third reason, internet popularity. Whereas people once consulted experts when encountering problems, now just a few keystrokes instantly bring answers. In many minds, the internet has replaced experts. But the author notes the internet doesn't replace experts. It creates numerous problems instead. The book highlights four main issues. First, excessive misinformation. While useful content exists online, it's dwarfed by fake information. Plus, many sites lack review mechanisms. Anyone can post, resulting in rampant misinformation we've all experienced. On social media, claims about phone radiation dangers alternate with miracle cancer cures. Misinformation spans politics, public welfare, to daily life. Impossible to verify everything, making deception easy.
Worse, online information spreads rapidly. Most don't verify, sharing interesting content immediately, accelerating rumor propagation.
Even if debunked or deleted later, the original rumors spread can't be stopped in time. As the saying goes, spreading rumors takes one mouth, debunking them takes running your legs off. To the author, the internet is a giant garbage dump. Finding reliable information is incredibly hard, let alone replacing experts. The second problem, making people overconfident in their judgment. Even with reliable online info, it doesn't guarantee sound decisions. Judgment requires not just information, but expertise, deep filtering, analysis, and synthesis. These are things the internet simply can't provide. More complex policy issues demand these skills. Example, Syria having chemical weapons is reliable public knowledge, but that doesn't mean the public can answer, will Syria use chemical weapons in its civil war? Or how should the U.S. respond if Syria uses them? These are the crucial questions. Answering them requires military and foreign policy experts.
The third problem, creating an equality illusion that makes people more mean-spirited and impulsive.
The internet's strong anonymity means we can't know a speaker's background. Whether I'm a major newspaper reporter, famous scientist, or college dropout, to the public, it all looks the same. Everyone appears as a network ID and avatar, freely expressing views. No one stands out as special. Thus, the internet fosters an illusion of equality, making people believe every participant has equal education and insight. Consequently, when encountering differing opinions, people become more impatient and hostile. They think, clearly, we're at the same level. What gives you the right to criticize me? Me? The author argues in this impulsive climate, rational discussion barely exists. People can't accept criticism humbly or reflect on their errors. When opinions clash, they either attack each other or close the page, both leading to close-mindedness and rejection of differing views. The internet's fourth problem: amplifying confirmation bias. For confirmation-biased people, the internet is a goldmine. However absurd their view, they'll find supporting evidence, especially abundant stories of expert errors. In 2015, a sensational story. A British teen diagnosed herself with rare cancer via online research. Her doctor dismissed her, saying, "Stop Googling symptoms." But she was correct. The doctor misdiagnosed her. Delayed treatment caused her death. This dramatic story attracted massive attention, fueling public bias against experts. But people don't realize such stories gain attention precisely because expert errors are rare. Conversely, ordinary people misdiagnose online, like mistaking heart attacks for indigestion, dying from delayed treatment. Such cases happen constantly but rarely get reported. Having covered the internet's role, next we discuss causes of expert distrust.
The fourth reason: news media's entertainmentization.
The author states, news should be the public's primary information source. Media's core principles must be accuracy, truthfulness, and objectivity, without embellishment, distortion, or deliberate guidance. Over time, news media outlets have multiplied. A survey shows in 1960, American households averaged 3 TV channels. By 2014, that number grew to 189, not counting digital editions of newspapers or TV stations offering 24/7 news accessible instantly via devices.
But more media means fiercer competition, resulting in news becoming entertainment-focused.
To attract users and boost ratings or clicks, some media abandon objectivity to produce viewer-pleasing content.
The author specifically criticizes Fox News. Serving American conservatives, it launched politically charged talk shows to attract right-wing viewers. In daily news coverage, Fox also discarded objective reporting, packaging news as political propaganda. Disliking Obama, Fox once reported he wasn't born in the U.S., making him ineligible for presidency, a claim without evidence, purely speculative. In this entertainment-driven climate, many Americans only consume like-minded media, reinforcing confirmation bias while dismissing dissenting outlets and experts. Beyond media bias, unprofessional journalism also contributes to declining credibility. In this fragmented information age, people prefer eye-catching, bite-sized news over substantive reporting. Thus, some journalists prioritize speed and volume, publishing click-worthy pieces without verifying facts. In 2014, many Western media outlets reported a paper claiming chocolate aids weight loss. This was actually a prank by journalists and doctors. They fabricated the paper, submitted it to a science journal, then leaked it to media, proving how easily pseudoscience becomes headlines. The paper was highly flawed and riddled with errors. Had journalists consulted experts, they'd have spotted the fraud, but publishers clearly skipped verification. The author states media should bridge experts and the public, conveying expert insights to enhance knowledge. If media prioritize entertainment over truth, they sever expert-public communication. Sometimes the public even weaponizes media falsehoods against experts, escalating tensions. All right, let's summarize Part 2's key points on why people distrust experts. There are 4 reasons for distrusting experts. First, cognitive traps that prevent people from recognizing their own inadequacies and dismissing differing viewpoints. Second is the commercialization of university education. This cultivates students who disrespect expertise, yet are arrogantly self-assured. Third is internet prevalence, making people believe information replaces experts and breeding hostility toward differing opinions. Fourth is the entertainmentization of news media. This amplifies confirmation bias and severs expert public communication. So why have people stopped trusting experts? Finally, in Part 3, let's discuss how to view expert errors. No one guarantees perfection. Experts, too, make unavoidable mistakes. As the author notes, he cites an example. Scientists invented nuclear bombs in 1945. Nuclear explosions create electromagnetic pulses, EMPs, that disrupt electronic systems. In 1962, A U.S. Pacific nuclear test caused streetlights to fail hundreds of kilometers away in Hawaii. Although experts knew EMPs were destructive, the hundreds of kilometers impact exceeded their predictions. The author emphasizes science isn't a conclusion, but a process. Experts learn through practice, continuously testing and refining theories. If experts were 100% accurate from the start, research and experimentation wouldn't be necessary. When facing expert views, neither blindly obey nor reflexively oppose. Philosopher Bertrand Russell offered advice on this. Simply put, first, judging right or wrong requires specialized knowledge. Second, agreeing with one expert doesn't mean opposing views are wrong. Finally, if experts agree current knowledge is insufficient, laypeople should withhold judgment. This prudent skepticism helps us view issues comprehensively and reach reliable conclusions. To help the public better discern expert opinions, the author details 3 more error scenarios. First, academic fraud or misconduct like plagiarism or data fabrication, hard for laypeople to detect. Fortunately, research lacking peer review rarely affects ordinary citizens' lives. Moreover, once academic misconduct is exposed, offenders face severe penalties from professional institutions like universities, colleges, industry organizations, academic foundations, and journals. The second scenario where experts err is disciplinary overreach. Some experts become overconfident, believing their mastery in one field translates to others. But in reality, different fields are worlds apart. An expert's competence elsewhere may barely exceed a layperson's. For example, renowned linguistics professor Noam Chomsky, an authority on human language origins, also wrote numerous books on politics and foreign policy. But to diplomatic professionals, these works appear amateurish. American chemist Linus Pauling, the only scientist to win 2 Nobel Prizes, believed megadoses of vitamin C could cure all diseases, practicing this himself despite zero scientific basis. Later research proved vitamin C abuse increases cancer and stroke risks. Thus, we must be cautious when experts opine outside their fields. Don't assume credibility based solely on their title. The third scenario where experts err is expert predictions. Many base actions on such forecasts. Stock traders obsess over financial experts' market analyses, hoping to predict trends. The U.S. government consults geopolitical experts to forecast international shifts and craft foreign policy. But the author argues this is a misconception. Experts aren't necessarily skilled predictors.
Outcomes reveal many expert predictions are unreliable.
In the 1980s, geopolitical experts deemed the Soviet Union stable, yet it collapsed within years. This is because science aims to explain and solve existing problems, not predict the future. Like doctors diagnosing and treating current illnesses, they can't predict when or what diseases you'll contract. Predictions also face uncertainty, e.g., analysts might favor a tourism company, then a sudden pandemic locks everyone indoors. The tourism firm's revenue plummets, unforeseen by anyone.
So, regarding predictions, people must adjust expectations. Don't assume experts excel at forecasting.
But the author acknowledges we often need predictions nonetheless. He suggests then seeking fox-type experts over hedgehog-type experts. Fox-type experts possess broad knowledge across multiple fields. Hedgehog-type experts deeply specialize in one area but lack wider perspective. Studies show fox types predict better. Their breadth integrates more information, enables perspective-taking and self-reflection, avoiding misapplied specialization for more objective analysis. All right, summarizing part 3. Approach expert views with humble skepticism. Compare comprehensively before deciding. With this, we've nearly covered the death of expertise. Nichols didn't write this to end criticism of experts or demand blind obedience.
As he states, if intellectuals rage at being mocked as useless, they should find new careers.
The single quotation mark could signal progress, ending experts' knowledge monopoly, enabling public elite debate. Quality public debate on issues is essential for democratic societies.
His real concern, people clinging stubbornly to wrong views, unwilling to listen or think, preventing substantive debate.
Ultimately, a society's direction depends not on experts but every individual within it.
Each one of us.
That concludes our interpretation. Find reading notes below the audio. See you tomorrow.